Yeah. That's the super ass eating sound. Man, fuck Bill Maher.
Yeah.
Hey there, guys, girls, and non-binary folks. It is your host, Caleb James, and Spencer, the Peruvian Pimp Daddy Church.
I just like how I have so many
Aliases?
my background, because I'm either Peruvian or like I can't remember.
Your ethnicity changes every week.
I like it.
That's all right. Be the Mongolian man toucher next week or something.
I mean, I've been called worse.
That's true. This episode was initially going to be a writing episode, but I woke up this morning to another bout of irritating news, which happens every single day of the week, it seems like. But today's news was a little more irritating in regards to what we enjoy in life. So if you want to take over, Spencer, I know this touched you quite deeply.
So, to those that might not be aware, you might have heard of him, you might not.
Hopefully not.
Which is, I think, a big factor behind this is, I call him ex-comedian Bill Maher, because I don't know when the last time he ever did any kind of
like set, a special,
or even like sets, like worked in any clubs or anything. Like I don't like
the 90s.
I think all he does is just his show now. Like, so I will call him a TV host or personality.
Let's say personalities.
TV personality, former comedian Bill Maher. Shortly after the death of Stan the Man Lee in November, posted this little blog post about how he didn't see the big deal behind
he was essentially dismissing his death as just another person because he was involved in comics.
And completely, neglected the effect that he's had on people's lives for like over half a century. Like
he kind of went on the neck beard, the douchey neck beard kind of style. Oh, he's overhyped. I don't give a shit. Yeah, what does it matter? Just another person.
Everybody, when Stan Lee died, at major news stations, the passing of beloved Stan Lee and everything, and Bill Maher had to be that one guy who was just like, I don't see it. What's the big deal?
Stan Lee was one of the few guys, or just few personalities in the entertainment world, where mostly just a positive view on him. You don't see too many. You don't hear many negative stories. You never. I mean, I'm sure there was some floating around.
And I will say, he always credited with creating the Marvel universe, and he always had great talented artists to help come up with the creators, and there was a lot of history and back and forth on how much did he create, how much did the artists create, and that's a whole nother discussion and topic, and it's a valid one. But he cultivated the comic culture and the fan base, and he made it what it is today. If not for him, you wouldn't have all this. It would still just be, comics would probably still be around in some shape or form.
They'd just be another niche thing.
Yeah, it wouldn't be this, phenomenon that they are now.
Well, Stan Lee was another one of those guys, too. Anytime I ever heard him, even in recent interviews, he would just give credits to the Jack Kirbys and Bill Fingers and things like that. I never heard him outright claim just to be the sole creator, really, of anything that he wasn't the sole creator of. He didn't take credit. He wasn't one of those guys that just takes credit and runs with it. So I don't really understand Bill Maher's criticism just on how he was overhyped even in the comic book industry, because I think that was a few things he brought up. And he just pretty much dismissed him for no reason. Just oh, that's another celebrity. Who cares? He's not anything important. But he's touched a lot of people's lives, and that's more than I can say for Bill Maher.
Been a huge positive factor on many people's life. He served in the Air Force?
I believe so. Some branch of the military.
He served. I can't remember. I do believe it was Air Force. So, anyways, that happened shortly afterwards, and as it should have been, he caught a tremendous amount of shit for that.
To be fair, it wasn't. The main points of his article weren't dismissing Stanley necessarily. That was almost a side note, but that's what brought the headlines. It was a dismissing of comic book culture
in general,
in its entirety.
Yeah,
which is what his new blog post or whatever interview, I'm not sure what it was, is what he was talking about. It was the same thing. So
after catching shit from all that, I think he talked little interviews for that a little bit after that, and then I don't know if it was like last night. It was probably a couple nights ago. That the new season of his show on HBO started. That Real Time or whatever it is.
So perfect time to try to get more publicity.
So from the article that I read, I didn't get a chance to actually watch the clip yet. But he has at the end of the show, he has this little rant on things and stuff like that. Hey, you know what he had to fucking do? He had to just bring this up. Hold on, folks. I made notes. This is when it was a shit. It was whenever
I had to write down some shit.
I prepared for something. How often does that happen?
Never.
So once he ended his show, and he did this shitty backhanded apology of I wasn't celebrating his death. I just was trying to talk about how stupid the genre is in general and stuff like that, which I kind of felt is he was reaching his hand out to apologize, oh, I'm sorry, I went to shake your hand, and whenever you went to reach out to shake his hand, he pulled his hand back and just put his dick in your hand. Oh, that's kind of what he was doing.
I think somebody should give him the old stink palm.
Yeah.
That's what he did when he had that the N-word controversy. He said the N-word on his show making some kind of joke. And because he apparently thought he was able to make those kind of jokes now because he's super liberal or something like that. But then that backfired on him. And his apology was kind of similar, I remember. It was just kind of this fake, phony, disingenuous apology.
He goes on to this spiral about, and I might be bringing this up out of order. Like I said, I hadn't had a chance to watch the video. This is just what I'm gathering from the different articles and things that I've read about it. So one of his big things is about how people who consider comic books literature, which
he thinks they're kids' books.
Yeah, and I think if you polled a lot of the comic community, they wouldn't say that it's literature either. It's not. That's not what comics are supposed to be for the most part. You got your Alan Moores. And your Grant Morrisons.
It's the same way you would say that maybe a Philip K. Dick isn't necessarily a literature. It's science fiction. It's a genre fiction, or even a Stephen King's horror. I mean, it's literature in the sense that you read it, but it's not. When people think of literature or literary fiction, those aren't the kind of works you think. Yeah. So why should comics be judged any different?
Yeah, because we brought them up before, but the Dead Robot Society, they had this running joke about when they're talking about the stuff that they're writing, how when you try to you write something and it's this grand, I created literature.
Yeah.
Instead of writing the story that you want to, you write it, you made the sin of creating literature and not.
Well, Bill Maher seems like the type of person to me who would brag about reading things like Proust and going on about the flowery language and pretty much essentially pages and pages of things that have nothing to do with
and this is, what he's probably, he probably hasn't read any work of fiction in 10, in forever.
At least comic books for sure.
Well, because you figure, and this has to be a part of his job, you got all those political guys and all that kind of stuff. So he's reading his guest books and things like that and trying to keep up on that stuff. It's all that boring ass shit that I don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. That just stuff don't interest me. I don't care about that stuff.
Well, if he read modern fiction, I wouldn't say he would be classifying it as literature or fine literature in any way. I mean, there's still literary fiction writers out there, but most people writing genres now, or even young adults, a booming industry, romance, science fiction, and horror. I think literary fiction is way like the end of the list.
Yeah.
If you look on sales wise and things like that.
Yeah, because it's just they said with the literature is just like it's just too fancy, and it's not, like I said, other than your select authors of the the Alan Moores, the Grant Morrisons, those kind of guys. That's not what they're trying to do anyways.
No.
When I'm reading a Flash comic, I want to see somebody run really fast,
punch some bad guys in the face.
Yeah, so that's not what I'm looking for. That's not what people are getting. They're coming to this to be entertained, not to be hoity-toity.
Well, I think that's what his main gripe is, which is a very snobbish way to look at life. For instance, he mentioned the movies a lot.
Yeah,
he compared that somehow to Trump being elected or Trump culture or something.
Just the fact that people in America, and it's just not America, it's all over the world, have comics as a popular thing. That only in America, because America holds comics into a high thing, is that Trump could get elected.
Yeah, that's essentially what he was saying, and it's stupid because
that's also the same culture that elected Obama, both Bushes.
Yeah, it's a very different culture.
Yeah,
and what I don't understand is why he would equate the comic book industry and people just wanting to be entertained, which has been the history of the world. People wanting to be entertained, from gladiator fights to Edgar Allan Poe to modern comics. I don't know why he thinks that just because you like to go see a Marvel movie on the weekend, that means you're some kind of lowbrow fucking troglodyte.
Which is fucking hilarious, considering I do believe it was Iron Man 3. He makes a cameo.
He was in it. He took that money, didn't he?
He took that money. He took that Marvel money. Which, I mean, I don't blame you. Like,
I would too.
Yeah, I would too. But if you're gonna take it, you need to back off a little bit, because you wasn't gonna have that money if it wasn't for how popular this stuff was.
Well, to circle back to the point, because I don't want to put words in his mouth, but just from what I read and stuff, I gathered that, like I said, he felt the movie-going audience that see Marvel movies are somehow lesser than people that go see the shitty Oscar-nominated movies that nobody watches. And that's the same in the literary world, where, sure, there are people like me who like classic literature. I mean, there's also people who like comics and hate classic literature, and then there's also people who like both. And that's what he seems to be forgetting, or just ignoring, the fact that people can like more than one genre or one type of thing. Because you can like Marvel movies and still like some French indie flick.
And I mean, and that's one of the great things about comics, is that you can literally tell any kind of story.
Well, that's the thing. He obviously has no idea what the modern comic genre is even like, because there's so many subgenres. Yeah. Because most of the comics I read aren't superhero comics. Yeah. I mainly read comics that are pretty much what would be like a literary fiction type of story based in comic form. Yeah. Like Brian Wood's DMZ, for example.
Oh, so good.
Wouldn't that be something that would be right up his alley, you would think, with all the politics and whatnot?
You would think, yeah.
But he wouldn't give it a chance because it has fucking pictures.
Yeah.
The little kids drew it. I was like, fuck you. That's just a stupid, archaic way of thinking. And a part of me thinks he does that on purpose just to get views.
Oh, yeah.
Mostly, probably. I would say mostly he does that just to get attention.
And he probably hasn't watched any of these. I defy you to watch Infinity War, and whenever Spider-Man's like, Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good, and you don't fucking well up a little bit, you're not like, oh, you're soulless. Like, I give shits about nothing. And when that first happened, I was just like, and I knew it was gonna happen. Like, I know the story for the most part. I knew most of these guys were gonna get wiped out. But still, when that moment happens, they done such a good job of telling these stories for over a decade that when that moment happens, like, I get emotional. Like,
well, with the Bill Maher type, this is what I think is funny. He goes on, about how Marvel and comic books and like the movies and comic books aren't what he would consider literature and things like that. But all the stories they tell are based on the same stories that you'd find in fine literature. It's all the same. The hero's journey, things like that. They're all the same stories, and most of them started with Shakespeare.
Look, Thor, obviously based off of Thor, the old Norse god. Flash, what was the Greek god that could run I can't think of his name, but you guys know what I'm talking about. All of the I saw a documentary where they talked about how a lot of the comics, if you you could find their roots in all of the classic stories.
Yeah, classic mythology. And this is where I also think his point's just not well thought out. He goes on about comics being for kids, and mainly the superhero stories is what he brings out. He doesn't mention the other forms of comics, obviously. You brought up Thor, for instance. Where would he place a writer like Neil Gaiman who has Norse mythology?
Yeah.
I would say that's literature. It's the retelling of mythology, but the way he writes it, would Bill Maher reject that because it's not stuffy and boring? And would a Tolkien, because it has hobbits and it's fantasy, is that not literature? Because that's considered one of the top series of all time in classic literature. So I don't know where his line is, but it's
he probably doesn't.
Yeah, I don't. I think he just talks out of his ass. He just wants to get a rise out of people, and that's just a very dick thing to do, especially because he goes out of his way to shit on people like Kevin Smith.
Oh, we'll get there. we'll get there. Okay, so the next thing I got down is he brings up this people he used the term everlasting childhood because you're liking the things that you liked
when you were 10. Yeah, he pretty much said that anybody who likes Marvel movies and the comic books, they never grew up. They never grew as a person. They're stunted, and they're still like they were when they were 10 years old, which is grossly inaccurate.
And what happens to the people, I didn't start reading comics when I was 10.
Me neither. I did some, but I didn't read, I wasn't an avid comic reader.
Yeah, I didn't start reading comics until, I was, 15, 16. That's whenever I got, hard into it.
I didn't really get serious into comics until I was in my 20s.
Yeah. Yeah, probably until you started hanging out with me, and I was like, check this out. Check this out.
Yeah,
this out.
I would read, some graphic novels and things like that, but I definitely didn't have a collection. That was, probably after I met you. So, to say that, are we considered children?
My thing is, the everlasting children, you act like a child. Is that necessarily a bad thing? Do
you want to be an old stuffy asshole like Bill Maher?
If you are going to work, paying your bills, and, taking care of everything, what's the matter of, if you're doing something that is bringing you joy and pleasure that doesn't involve, murdering little children, what's the big deal?
There's worse hobbies to have. And where is his line? Because, for instance, our book club, there are a lot of people. We got a guy who works for the IRS. We got office workers. We got people that went to journalism school. Yeah. We got people that are doing very well for themselves. I would say they're all very much adults. Where do you draw the line? Because they like Marvel and DC, they're kids?
Yeah.
Or they just never grew up, even though they have families and they take care of their responsibilities.
And then, you brought up one of the things that he said is if you're still doing the stuff that you did when you were 10, you have that. So, you're probably jerking off at 10. You're probably still jerking off now. Does that mean you haven't grown at all, Mr. Bill Maher?
I don't think so, because he's still a jerk off.
Yeah.
He still has the same attitude he probably had when he was 10. Just shit on everything he doesn't like.
And then he made this comment that he didn't... He was talking about his original statement about Stan Lee's passing, and he's like, I wasn't celebrating that he died. He was like, I was mourning that you're still alive, talking to the comic community.
I found that line disgusting.
And, I get it. He's a quote-unquote comedian. So, I get, how he's trying to say some shit to get a rise out of people and to try to be, funny or whatever.
Well, somebody told me on Twitter earlier today that most people just don't get his satire. That's not satire. That's trolling.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
And it's almost borderline hate speech. when you want a
put it this way, if he said that about an ethnic group instead of a fan base,
yeah.
Or what if he said that about I mean, he does on his show, I think, like Christians or Catholics or whatever. He shits on everybody. I'll give him that. At least he shits on people somewhat equally, from what I could tell. But for instance, like if you went after Catholics, you're going to get some backlash because not all Catholics are the same. And he judges all comic book readers as people who live in their mom's basement until they're 45 and things like that. And like, the old stereotypes that are not true anymore.
Yeah. I would give it more of a like, let it slide. If he was on stage, like an actual, like, you know, and working out this bit, like in front of an audience. Like, you know what I mean?
If it was an actual bit.
Yeah, like, then, in that way, I would be like, oh, okay, like, you know, like, if he actually did some stand-up comedy, and, like, this was on, like, a special or something, like, I can laugh at myself. I can laugh at the things that I'm into. I make fun of it a lot myself.
The thing is, the reality for his life is he's not a stand-up comedian anymore. He's not. What he does is he has a political show. And granted, it's supposed to be on the humorous side, and he brings on people, and they kind of keep it light for the most part, but he still talks about serious subjects. When you do that, people are going to put you in a box. I would say his is on the liberal side, but they're going to put you in some kind of category. When you say things, they're going to take you serious, whether you're a comedian or not. He likes to try to play both ends, but you haven't been... If you're still doing stand-up, okay.
Like, if Rogan said something along these lines,
you could say he's joking.
I would give it like I would give it a pass because like
Joe Rogan's a comedian.
He's a comedian,
an active comedian,
and he would do it in a more tasteful, funny way, other than just being like, these guys are dumb and stupid.
But if a Jordan Peterson or a Sam Harris brought up these topics and were chastising the comic community, they're not comedians. You would take them seriously because that's their realm. Or even if, say, they dabbled in comedy to a degree, and that's not their wheelhouse though. They're still intellectuals and they give these big speeches. You're still gonna put these kind of ideas on the more serious side of their way of thinking. Yeah, because they're not comedians. And Bill Maher, I don't see him as a comedian anymore.
Nope. Honestly, I think his last special was like in the early 2000s.
Yeah, it's been a really long time. Yeah, and even then, I'm sure it was probably a lot of political stuff.
Because it was that Religulous or something like that.
Yeah,
and I remember like seeing something. It was at least the very least, like the 10th anniversary of that special, with nothing else out in between that. So like as to kind of finish that point, as if we were saying, if he was on a stage working on a bit, trying to say, you know, kind of preaching at people and giving them shit about things that they enjoy, which he has no right.
George Carlin was great at that. He would put a lot of political type humor in his stuff, not like a Lewis Black type of, you know, but he would have a lot of political humor in it, but he could pretty much say anything because he was a comedian. That's what his job was. Bill Maher's job isn't a comedian. He's a TV host.
And George Carlin took the time to think, like, he worked through his bits, like...
George Carlin, if you challenged him on something, even if it was a comedy piece, if you challenged him on one of his bits, he would actually have a rebuttal.
Yeah.
It was a thought-out, not just a thought-out, you know, comedy bit, but it was an actual... Like, it stems from his beliefs, and he can give you more into it. Whereas a Bill Maher type, if you really went into it, like if we brought up the Grant Morrisons and the Neil Gaimans and the Alan Moores, he probably wouldn't have any, because he probably didn't research it. Yeah.
Who?
I mean, even if he did know him, he's not going to know their work, like their comic work that much, because obviously he doesn't read comics, so he wouldn't be able to go into it.
And like every word that Carlin says is there for a reason. It has a meaning. Like, he thought that through. Bill Maher's just throwing shit to the wall and seeing what sticks and what's going to get him publicity.
I always thought of Bill Maher as the left version of Dennis Miller. He's like he's like a pseudo-intellectualist. Like, he thinks he's an intellectual, and while he's probably, you know, he seems intelligent enough, but he'll bring up some of the most asinine opinions, and I don't know if it's for, you know, just ratings or if he actually believes these.
And again, there's a writing staff on that show. So how much is he actually coming up with?
It's hard to say. And
how much is him to where, like, he has these group of people writing these jokes and things like that, and he's just, you know, for the rest of the show, and he's just saying what he thinks is, you know, is
a good example is Norm Macdonald. I remember seeing on a show, and Norm Macdonald is considered, not just in the comedy world, but just in the world of entertainment in general, to be one of the smartest guys.
Yeah.
And people...
And you wouldn't think it,
because he acts like, you know, kind of stupid on purpose. That's his gimmick there. He was on Bill Maher, and, like, everyone was real serious. I remember seeing this, it was like one of those round table type of things, and everyone's going, and then they got the Norm Macdonald, and he said something smart ass and stupid, and the look Bill Maher gave him was just like, you are a complete fucking moron.
Well, he's probably mad because, like, he probably got whatever he said probably got, like, applause break. You know what I mean? The crowd probably loved it. The people on the panel was probably laughing. And Bill Maher's probably there stirking, like,
sulking. Well, the thing about Norm Macdonald that's great is
no fucks given.
No, he will purposely bomb. And I love that. He'll go on a show and he'll say a bunch of funny shit that gets the crowd just, you know, they love it. But then he'll also say things that completely nobody understands.
But it's almost better. Like, the bombing, like, he's like the only person that can bomb and not bomb. Like, his bombing isn't bombing. Like.
No. It's because he did that Bob Saget roast. And he just read jokes from an old joke book. The stupidest fucking jokes. Like, what was one of them? I can't think. There's stupid things like, he's full of baloney, and like
it's like dad jokes, probably.
Yeah, that's what it was. I think he got the book off his dad or something. It was like old joke books, but he bombed on purpose, and that's what made him brilliant. And I remember he was on Conan a long time ago. I think it was Conan.
I was gonna bring that up.
Well, he's always on Conan, but one of the episodes it was either Conan or Letterman.
No, I think it was Conan. I remember you showing me this video before. It was
old. I didn't show you this one. This was, I forget the guy's name. He was in the movie Easy A. He was like the principal. He has a weird deep voice. You wouldn't know him, maybe, even if you saw him probably. But he was going on and on. It was either Letterman or Leno. But he was going on about some fucking stupid topic, like his ranch or something. And then and Norm Macdonald was sitting there. And Norm Macdonald always saves the interviews that are real boring.
Yeah.
Well, the guy started going off about windmills or something. And Norm Macdonald looked at him real serious and was like, "Did you tilt at them?" And then the guy looked at him and was like, "Did I tilt at the windmills?" And then people laughed because it was such a stupid comment. But tilting at windmills is actually from Don Quixote.
Yeah.
He thought the windmills were like monsters or something, and he wanted to attack them. So the joke went over everybody's head. And that's like the kind of thing that Norm Macdonald always does. These really intelligent kind of quips that nobody gets. And when he was on Bill Maher, you could just see Bill Maher just didn't get it.
And he has that very dry, just sense of...
Well, he'll say it just real monotone sometimes, just so people just look at him like, is he serious?
All right. Back on the topic of Bill Maher being a dick.
Big flappy phallus.
He makes this comment about how... the writing, how people act like the writing in comic books is all this great, and he's like, every superhero movie is the same. They get powers and they learn how to use them, and then they have to go find some glowy thing.
I would like him to read The Crow.
Yeah, or like I don't remember that, other than maybe the Infinity Stones and some of the the Marvel movies. What fucking glowy thingies have they been going for? What even like Blade back in the day? That was something like...
That was, it was a vampire fucking story. I'm trying to think. For instance, Ant-Man. Ant-Man's, I would say, the quintessential Marvel movie of just kind of, not necessarily loser hero, but in that case, loser hero.
Yeah.
And he gets his power, he gets the suit, but he gets his powers, he does things, he fights a villain.
He reluctantly saves the day, doesn't he?
Yeah. But if Bill Maher watched Ant-Man, when he goes into the fucking quantum zone, or the quantum realm, like, that was way, way deeper than your typical just superhero fun flick, like that, just that scene. But Marvel does that in most of their movies. They have scenes like that.
Yeah.
And most of the, like, the Captain America Winter Soldier, that was more of a thriller.
Yeah, it was a spy thriller.
Yeah.
That was such an awesome movie.
Guardians of the Galaxy, like that, those two, they weren't what you would consider necessarily just a typical Marvel movie.
The Spider-Man Homecoming was like a typical, like...
coming of age story.
Yeah, almost. Like a John Holmes, high
Not
school.
John Holmes.
Not dude. John Holmes, but...
John Holmes had the big flapping penis in the 80s.
Not John Holmes, but... Landis? Is that the guy who did the Breakfast Club?
No. What the fuck is his name? Now you got me thinking of John Holmes Wiener.
Like you wasn't thinking about it.
I wasn't.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a little, but
just a little. That's all it takes.
Here, I'll look it up for you while you talk.
So there's as we were saying earlier in the comic genre, there's so many different genres, so therefore that translates into different genre of movies. There's just like so many, like we were trying to say, there's sci-fi, there's thriller and action, there's murder mysteries, and that's just like if you're going through the mainstream Marvel DC movies. There's a whole bunch of movies that you've probably watched that
for instance, The Crow.
Yeah, that you had no idea that was based off of a comic.
Yeah, The Crow, Watchmen, things that are lesser known, Kingsman.
Yeah.
John Hughes, by the way.
John Hughes, okay.
Not John Holmes.
John
Holmes is the point. See, now you got me questioning that even. I hate when you go down that rail just questioning everything. Pretty soon you got the UFO on your wall, the poster.
Yeah. Do you believe?
Sometimes.
So it's just, again, it's just him not understanding things.
I don't think it's so much he doesn't understand them. I think he purposely skews his, not necessarily his opinion, but he skews the topic in the direction he wants it to go. When he views comic books, he wants to make his audience believe it's just all mouth-breathing fucking sewer dwellers reading Superman saving the day, just kind of caping flying shit.
And don't get me wrong, we got a couple of those.
But even if you do like an X-Men or a Batman, most of the time it's not like a fucking old school NES beat 'em up game.
Yeah.
There's substance to those stories too. They're not all the 70s Fantastic Four kind of goofy, corny stories that he probably read growing up.
If he read at all.
Well, he said in that first one that he read comics when he was like a little kid.
He said...
Which again was what, in the 60s?
Yeah. But look, you brought up the X-Men. You know what that did for any people who of any kind of different colors? Back in the day, it was an allegory.
It gave you superheroes that you can kind of relate to.
It was an allegory to, people of different races.
The Civil Rights Movement.
Like homosexuals. It was for people, and even if you wasn't anything, if you were just a person who felt different and alone, there was somebody to show, there was this thing here that could show you, it's okay, there's people out there to...
Well, let me ask you this. What would you think the world would look like today if we never had comics, or they never took off, if they stayed in the old pulp magazines and never became popular? We didn't have comic book movies. We didn't have fucking...
TV shows. It'd be a lot less colorful.
It makes me think of movies like Gone with the Wind and Citizen Kane. While they might be great movies, you think black and white, dry dialogue, almost what you would think of as literary fiction. It just come to screen. So would that be what our modern world was? Just a bunch of kind of bland, non-entertaining... Because comics pushed the boundaries of imagination.
And if you didn't have those, if comics didn't take off, and then just the generations of people that those inspired, Stephen King, you had there's people, they might not have collected and had huge things, but there were people who, especially back in the day, you'd read a 10-cent comic, give it to your buddy, it gets passed around, but it's documented, if you asked a lot of famous people in the writing genres, in movie making, actors, they enjoyed these stories and wanted to emulate them or inspired them to do something like this, or to try different things and stuff.
Well, look at it this way. In the late 19th century and the early 20th century, before comics were real popular, because they didn't take off until what? I would say Captain America era is when it started becoming more popular.
Well, there was always comics in the early 1900s, even before them, but like, there was like the weird stuff.
What I'm getting at,
I'm gonna say Superman came out in like the late 30s, early 40s, and there was a height, and then it died, and then in 62 or 3, whenever Stanley created the Fantastic Four.
It was the golden era.
The silver. That was silver.
What was the golden era? Like Captain America before that?
Captain America. Golden was like the early Superman, Batman's, that kind of stuff. Because that made Marvel. Before that, it was like Timely Comics. It was like a completely different company.
Right.
And so whenever those stories started, that boost... so it was like I said, like 63, 64, something like that.
Well, what I was getting at was when, like you said, the golden era and the silver era, but even in the golden era, in the 40s, 50s, and I would even say in the 60s, comic books were still definitely seen as for kids.
Oh, yeah.
And anything before the 60s, for kids, like, if you were reading comics as an adult in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, they'd look at you weird, probably. Look at how literature was before the 60s, because comics weren't really popular enough to influence many writers. And if you look at literature, you had H.P. Lovecraft was a creative guy. Edgar Allan Poe didn't really create monsters. So you had H.P. Lovecraft, and I'm sure there was some other, because they had a lot of the pulp magazines and stuff.
Yeah.
But again, those were considered like kids writers. The literature at the time was dry and kind of boring, and it was just mostly tales of real life, or at the most kind of like dystopian type stories of what the world could be. But then once comics came out, and then all of a sudden we had fantasy and sci-fi and all kinds of things like that.
I remember seeing an interview where Stan Lee talked about like how he would go to colleges and do like lectures in like the early 70s and stuff, and he talked about how like he started to notice like with like the when they start getting into like the Doctor Strange and like all that other stuff, like you'd see like in the newsletters that like in the letters that they got, it would change from like 5-6-year-old like little kids to like college students, because of like the different things that they would talk about, like alternate dimensions and just realities,
because they still
and, like, that kind
had
of stuff.
Adult topics. They just did it in an entertaining way that casual readers could relate to and enjoy. Like I said, you'd be a fool not to believe comics had an influence on writers all around the world.
Yeah.
Because like I said, before the 60s...
Writers, filmmakers, like, you didn't think...
like I said, look at film before the 60s. Most movies were just about real life. They didn't... I mean, while they were entertaining, they didn't have the imagination we have now.
You don't think like George Lucas or Steven Spielberg or anything, you don't think they would nose deep in comic books? Like,
they had Fantastic Four, space
like,
travel, Guardians of the Galaxy, even things like that. Like, all those books have great impact on writers today. Like, I know there was a few popular writers like Stephen King, for instance, who were deeply impacted by the pulp magazines that came out, because that was kind of the comics before comics.
Yeah.
Because they had the sci-fi stories, and even though they didn't necessarily have like pictures, like sci-fi and fantasy were considered low, like for kids pretty much, just low-level literature back then.
Yeah, and it's him not understanding or did any research on the culture. I would like to see him like walk through a convention. Like,
I think a guy like him, if he walked through a convention, he would just be making fun of everybody.
Yeah.
He couldn't see how somebody spent months building a fucking kick-ass costume because they are that passionate about something.
Or somebody who's super anti-social
is able to go out and be in a crowd and talk to people that are like them.
And feel and not have to worry about getting...
They don't feel alienated.
The judgment of other people, because they know everybody within, for the most part, I'm not trying to make it sound like it's perfect. We got bad apples too, you gotta get that in every group. But for the most part, the comic community is really...
If you walked into any comic book store in America and you genuinely had an interest in comics, but you didn't read comics before that, and you talked to just some of the people in there, they would introduce you. Probably what do they like, what they like, but they would introduce you to things. They wouldn't avoid you.
Yeah.
They wouldn't make fun of you and run away. They would want to bring you in. I mean, like you said, there's bad apples out there who don't want people to infringe on their culture, so to speak, of comic books.
You just get assholes. You get assholes that read comics.
You got them, everywhere.
But that like to make fun and, and like, I'm not gonna lie, I've seen people at conventions I make fun of, like, hey, look at that guy over there. That's kind of funny. But
like, you see more Leo Beast Wolverine in a tank top, you're like, hey.
But, like, I don't openly mock that guy. I don't go up to his face and be like, what's wrong with you, or
no,
or
if he came
like
over
that.
and talked to you, still have a conversation with him, even treat him like shit, just be like, dude, that's a little revealing. But anyway, we're getting a little bit off topic. What do we got here?
So, like, we're getting close to the end of what I kind of had jotted down, but, like, I also wanted to also bring up, like, these are his opinions, and, that's a good thing about America. He's able to have those opinions. I just think he needs to do a better job
expressing them.
Yes, and like kind of like I was saying before, like if he was doing a comedy show and was throwing this stuff out there, try to get a laugh, I'd be more okay with it than him being on his high horse on his TV show trying to preach and convert people. I don't know.
I think of him like how I thought of Roseanne with the whole Ambien tweeting thing, because she said some racist shit on Twitter, but then like I listened to her interview with Joe Rogan, and I do believe maybe she didn't know that lady was, I think she was black. She thought she was Jewish or something, and she made fun of her. And my whole point, like, then the whole thing was she was still wrong because you shouldn't be attacking people.
Yeah.
And that's how I view Bill Maher. You can think comic books are for kids. You can dislike them. You can think they're for the lower end of society versus your high, snobby, whatever society. But you don't have to be a dick about it. You can acknowledge that people like things that you don't enjoy. Like, for instance, we don't read fuck fiction, but we don't shit on fuck fiction unless it's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, last episode.
2 episodes ago.
2 episodes ago? I don't know. Like, it's just, I had a train of thought. I can't remember where I was going. But it's basically, if he could just, this is what I was going to go with. And it would be like one thing if somebody said something to him and brought this topic up, but to just start it after the death of...
Yeah, he's the one that brought it up. Nobody asked him about it.
Yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Like, I could see, like, if on his show somebody brought it up and he was just like, oh, I don't really like comics, I don't understand the point of it.
But again,
like,
you could say that and that's fine, but you don't have to be a condescending dick about it.
Yeah. And he is gonna have to be careful because I don't think he doesn't understand the culture, like... The nerd comic community, like, there's some ruthless motherfuckers, like, how many, especially considering, like...
You have a lot of guys that are outcast.
Well, and I'm not even talking about kind of, like, have to worry about physical harm, but how many people will be like, hey, until you get rid of Bill Maher's show, I'm canceling my HBO prescription.
Oh, like, yeah, you get plenty of those people.
Especially considering how, like, Game of Thrones is ending, and the only other thing, like, they have is, like, Westworld that comes out, like, every 2 years.
Well, you just touched on his main problem, is that he is looking at comic books from the nerd perspective of it's just a bunch of angry nerds, they're a minority. But in reality, most people are watching these movies, and I think that's what he hates.
Yeah.
I think that's what's pissing him off, is that he could put out his show or his documentaries or whatever he puts out, and, the fucking newest Iron Man movie comes out, it's going to do way better than his.
He's like the nerdy jock that at the 10-year anniversary is mad because the guy that he picked on got a shit ton of money now for being smart, and it's probably doing the chick that he was doing back in high school.
Yeah, and he's still just now he's just living through his high school glory days.
Which is saying something considering how, like, he's not even very jockey. He seems like a very... And that's the thing, like, you'd think of, like, Bill Maher, you would think, like, he was probably, like, a nerdy kind of guy. Like, I don't know if that's just because he started out as a comedian, and I just kind of picture all comedians, even if, like, they might not be, like, into, like, comics and stuff like that, but, like, just kind of like that.
I always got a Howard Stern vibe from him. Because Howard Stern's another one of those guys who, like, because Bill Maher I didn't always dislike. No. I never really necessarily watched his stuff too much, but sometimes he'd bring up points I would agree with, and I would catch something. I'd be like, all right, I didn't really think of him too much.
There's been plenty of times, like, I'll be flipping through trying to find something to watch, and, like, his show would be on HBO, and I wouldn't mind watching it, because, he's making, like, and, like, I don't know shit about politics, and, like, I think he's talking about something that he doesn't know. This would be like me saying shit about politics. Well, I don't know jack shit about politics.
Yeah, but you give your opinion just because.
Because I think that's what people need to hear and know about.
This makes me think, what are his opinions on other things and how... the way he looks at comic books, like you said, does he really understand them? He obviously hasn't. He said himself he hasn't read since he was a kid. So you don't know it, but you're judging it. So how does that translate to other things he talks about on his show? Is he talking about certain politics he knows nothing about, but he goes on like he does?
And like, it gets me because he always talks about, like, the comic culture, like, in America, and why that's, like, one of the main reasons why we're in such a shithole. But, like, comics are big everywhere. There's comics in Canada. There's comics over in London. And you're all over Europe.
Japan culture is huge.
Japan,
manga.
like, yeah. And, like, they're into some weird shit over there. But, like, if you look at their industry and stuff like that, they're doing fine. And, like, manga is a huge thing over there.
Well, here's something.
Now, granted, they also have, vending machines where you can buy used panties, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, in Japan, it used to be considered, if you were a manga person, you were, like Bill Maher says, the everlasting child. You don't grow up. That's how they used to view people that did that, but I don't think it's like that anymore, obviously, because of how popular it is. But the thing about Japan is they've grown up. So they still have that culture, but for some reason you have the Bill Maher types in this country who just shit on comic culture like it's for kids.
Or just shit on things that they don't like for no reason at all.
Well, that's a problem with most people anymore, it seems like.
And I mean, again, I'll shit on something that I don't like, and I'll take pot shots, but it's always within the vein of, that I'm joking around with somebody, or I'm trying to get it's not in the...
You're not saying somebody is worthless because they like 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah. I just say you have bad reading choices is all.
Fair enough.
And then the last thing I really have note-wise for this is that, which really makes me mad, is that I don't think he has an actual stance on this regardless. I think he just saw that everybody...
It was a talking point.
Yeah, he just saw that everybody was like, oh, Stan Lee, It was
a talking point, and he knew that nobody else was going to say something bad about it.
So he was going to do it to get his name out there. And granted, we might not have the hugest fan base now, but we've probably spent like an hour talking about him. So I guess he kind of wins, but I still just want to be like, fuck you, Bill Maher, for saying some stupid shit.
Definitely fuck him. Fuck him with a iron fucking pole that's been heated up in the oven.
Yeah.
Like, he's just a dick. And like I said before, like I had somebody, actually I think we were talking about this off air, where somebody was mentioning to me on Twitter that you just don't get his satire. And I said there's a difference between satire and just trolling. And with the Bill Maher, I really wonder, because like I said, I agreed with some of the stuff I've seen before, but I never really gave him much attention. How much does he just straddle different lines just to get views and stuff? How many actual liberal or Republican type or conservative views, does he hold? Or is he just the kind of guy that'll just go whatever's popular at the moment?
And now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I always kind of looked at like satire as like a highbrow like parody.
Yeah.
To where like you're saying something about something else. You're trying to make a statement about that, but you are doing it within like a form of another story or something like that, other than, like I've said before in this podcast, of him just being like, this is dumb and stupid. I don't know why people like this. And they're morons for liking it, and they're the reason why this country's so goddamn bad. That's what gets me, like, that what really pissed me off about the first one was the whole fucking Trump statement about, like, the comic book culture in this country is the reason why Trump is president. Like, fuck you, man.
Backhanded way of, dissing half the country, too, because, like, that's doing two things. One, he's equating all Trump supporters with being stupid. And two, because he feels Trump supporters are stupid, he's equating Marvel movie viewers and superhero fans as stupid.
Yeah.
Because he's trying to say they're like, Trump supporters. Not only, that seems like that's his MO now. He shit on the comic community as a whole rather than just saying some of the comic community are losers who live in the basement or whatever. And some Trump supporters are stupid basement dwellers who live in trailers and wave flags and are racist, but he lumps everybody up in one big group. Why?
Because he doesn't want to take the time and the effort research to actually make an informed decision or thought on anything. He just wanted to say the thing that was going to get him the most views.
Well, here's something I'm not seeing him doing after the last thing, and he probably won't do after this little controversy. Have actual comic creators or people in the industry come on, debate him, and talk to him.
Well, that's like a thing. Like, I remember seeing multiple episodes in the past where he had Patton Oswalt on there. Yeah. Like, he wouldn't be like a main guest; he'd be like kind of a side guest at the end, and stuff. And I defy you to try to find a bigger comic book fan than Patton Oswalt.
I would like him to tell Patton Oswalt to his face that he is a loser man-child.
Yeah.
And not successful because he likes comic books. Because you can't.
He needs to adulting.
Yeah.
He's not adulting enough.
And I would tell Bill Maher to go fuck himself. He can go step backwards and take a long look in the mirror and then fuck himself in his own face.
Yep.
Because he's a penis, and now I'm going to go get a beer.
Yeah.
And we're back!
And so we almost to get in the hatred of Bill Maher, we almost forgot about one of the things that he brought up in his bullshit is that he brought when it came to like the adulting and acting like a child when you're older, man-child, is he brought up Kevin Smith because Kevin Smith gave him a little bit of shit when he first made his remarks about Stan Lee because Kevin Smith and Stan Lee were close. Really close. Like, he was in multiple of his movies. He was one of the first people to put Stan Lee in a goddamn movie, Mallrats. Yeah. And it wasn't even like and when you say cameo, he actually like had lines in the dialogue other than just like in the Marvel movies.
He wasn't just a cameo.
I'm Stan Lee. I'm old and Stan Lee. Look at me.
He made fun of him for wearing a jersey.
Yeah,
and pretty much just saying
dressing like a child.
Yeah, saying he's a teenager. And what I don't understand about that is Kevin Smith is very, very successful.
Very.
He has fucking numerous popular movies that people love. He has creators, he's created characters that people love. He's written comic books. He's fucking directed TV shows.
Multiple podcasts.
I would say he's done way more. Yeah, he's super popular. Multiple podcasts. He's way more successful than Bill Maher.
He does, like the Evening with Kevin Smith and stuff like that, which are essentially kind of like Q&A stand up.
He does stand up too, doesn't he now?
Yeah, he had that special on Showtime where he had the heart attack.
Yeah, he actually did fucking stand up.
And I watched that, and like I'm a huge Kevin Smith fan, but like that was good. Like it was, and that's saying like I knew kind of a lot of the stories already because of the stuff that he kind of previously talked about. But it's funny, like So you go and you make fun of a beloved guy, almost beloved by everybody, and then so you double down on giving shit to probably like the nicest guy in Hollywood, probably.
One of them.
And Kevin Smith has been known to kind of take his shots from assholes, but like you were saying, he had that, like, Clerks just had its 25th anniversary from Sundance,
yeah,
and he's still out there doing it.
Well, here's the thing: you look at a Bill Maher, I could already know what he's thinking. Well, Kevin Smith makes movies for teenage stoners.
Yeah,
I mean, for instance, like a Jay and Silent Bob, you could say that. But at the same time, they're entertaining as fuck. Why is that a bad thing?
And he's also done different things like Tuts.
And Red State.
And Red, that are completely different than the stuff that he did.
Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
That had comic book elements in it, but it was, Ben Affleck was a comic book creator in the movie, but it wasn't about comic books necessarily. It was about his, relationships.
Yeah.
So, Bill Maher can get rightly fucked, in my opinion.
So fucked.
He can... No, I'm not going to go there.
No, you don't want to get in how he could get fucked. Just the fact that he could get fucked.
Yeah, you got to watch doing that these days.
You know what Bill Maher reminds me of. He reminds me. He probably wouldn't want to be. He reminds me of like a cuck.
Cuck.
He seems like a cuck to me.
He just wants to see his wife get plowed.
Something like that. Yeah.
By another man.
Yeah.
Perhaps a sexy man dingo.
Man. Yeah.
Knee slapper.
He seems like a weird kind of guy like that. And the sad thing is that Bill Maher is such a fucking dick, he probably doesn't have somebody that he could watch get cucked. You know what I mean? He's probably paying somebody to get cucked and then somebody to do the cuckoline. If I'm using that correctly.
Cuckoline? Nah, it seems about right. Bill Maher seems like the kind of guy to me who would fart in a public jacuzzi. So the bubbles pop and steam up the fart to people's noses.
Gross. And like I said before, I kind of enjoyed some of his stuff now, and it might be petty, but now the fuck up Bill Maher. I'm not gonna watch his show. If he ever did anything else, I wouldn't support that either. But I guess I don't have to really worry about that since he doesn't do shit anymore.
He's definitely, like I said, a Dennis Miller type. Whereas I don't know what the fuck Dennis Miller does now. He either has a show or radio things. I know he still works, but he became super conservative. Yeah. And just...
Remember whenever Dennis used to do... he used to do football. He used to announce football back in the day.
Yeah, that was a weird choice.
And people did not like it because...
because he was real smart ass.
He'd be like 3rd and 2, and then the material monarch in 18th century England murdered, and it was incomplete. Come on, dude, you can't...
And they score the game-winning touchdown. Not that anybody gives a shit because it doesn't really matter. Yeah. He was kind of a fuckface too. That's another one though. I will say when Norm Macdonald went on Dennis Miller's show, Dennis Miller was a lot more likable.
Yeah.
Unlike Bill Maher, he didn't shit all over Norm Macdonald. He complimented what he was doing. The Norm Macdonald, the everyman, and then Dennis Miller would play the smart guy and they would feed off each other. Whereas Bill Maher just wants to be smarter than everybody.
Dennis Miller, the last thing I probably really saw him in?
Joe Dirt.
Yes. That was exactly what was going to be. I don't know if he was in that second one. I never watched that straight to DVD, Joe Dirt 2.
I watched a part of it and they were time traveling.
Time traveling? Joe Dirt time travels?
It's all about time travel. You think that would be delightful. It was fucking awful. I think even his wig was real shitty.
Was Christopher Walken in it?
I honestly don't remember. It was on Crackle. And I did not download Crackle to watch it. I watched clips on YouTube, I think, or something. Because it was awful.
You can't even get on Netflix. You gotta go Crackle.
Crackle. Is that even around anymore?
Probably not.
Don't even lie. You don't even know what the fuck Crackle is, do you? Because I didn't. I still don't. I think it's a...
I'd imagine that is a streaming service from what you were saying, but...
Didn't at a convention not too long ago, it might have been a year or so ago, we went to... It was a horror panel for a streaming service, and then just Microsoft Windows exploded or something, and it didn't work.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
But they showed, the worst fucking horror movie, trailers. I don't remember what that was called, but I don't think it took off. When you can't even have the panel because the computer breaks down. So are we done talking about Bill Maher? Do we have anything else to add to this?
Other than he's a complete and utter fuckface, I don't see how we could spend so much more time talking about it. Because then it's just what he wants. Like we were saying earlier, this is just what he wants.
That's true. Yeah, that's one thing that's really hard about. You want to give your opinion and counteract some of the stupid shit people say, but then when you do that, all you're doing is giving them your platform and
just spreading their word.
Like, people are going to look into it. So even if people didn't agree or disagree with the topic, if they didn't have an opinion on it, now they're going to go, well, these guys, they said this about Bill Maher. I better go see what Bill Maher said. Maybe they do agree with Bill Maher, and now you just brought him more attention, and people bring his following up.
Anybody who is listening to this, do not look up anything about Bill Maher. Just take our word for the fuckface that he truly is.
I'll have to agree with Joe Rogan on, it's kind of a fucked up thing to say somebody has a punchable face.
But he definitely has a punch.
Yeah.
Because he always has like that smug just... You can't see the face that I'm making right now, but he's kind of pouty and just like, man.
We're kind of making a Robert De Niro face now, but...
A little bit,
Yeah, the fucking...
But I wouldn't punch Robert De Niro. Even that he's old as fuck now, I still would not punch Robert De Niro.
No, he seems like a guy that would beat you up.
Yeah!
He always seemed like a guy that would beat you up. I watched Raging Bull not too long ago, and he was vicious. He just seems like an angry man. Not necessarily angry. He seems like a cool, collected angry man. That's the worst kind.
Yes, that's the scary kind.
Yeah, like a mobster dude where he'll be just seething, just bubbling over with rage, but you have no idea because he's smiling, and then he just stabs you in the neck, which is the way...
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's worse ways to go than getting stabbed in the neck by Robert De Niro.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick a way, that would be one of them.
It's way better than getting teabagged by Nicolas Cage dying. Getting smothered by his massive balls because he has to have massive balls to do the shitty movies he does and still has a career.
Where does he?
He still does movies. He's going to be in a new H.P. Lovecraft movie.
Well, he was in... Really?
Yeah, it's going to be, I think it's The Color Out of Space, which I'm actually excited about because an H.P. Lovecraft story is perfect for that fucking nut.
I was going to say, because he was just in... He was Noir Spider-Man in the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Who did he play?
Noir Spider-Man. He's like the black and white guy. He was like, sometimes I just let the end of the match burn to my fingertips just to feel something. And then it goes out.
Even in cartoon, they got to give that dude the weird part.
Yeah.
He used to be... he was an Oscar winner.
He was such a good actor for a while.
What the fuck happened, man? I heard that Mandy movie is outrageous. I want to see that, but I can't find it on any kind of streaming service I have. I forget what it's on. I don't really feel like buying it.
No.
Because it's... I watched the trailer. Just look out of control.
I haven't seen that.
We have a couple minutes left. Why don't we talk about some movies coming out since we just went on about Bill Maher for a fucking hour.
Yeah, let's end on something good and positive.
Go into the superhero genre that he shits on so much. How about a superhero series that isn't like the ones he's shitting on? The Glass trilogy, or the Unbreakable trilogy. Have you seen Glass yet?
I never got around to seeing Split.
Split was really good.
That's what I hear. It was just one of those things I've never...
I mean, James McAvoy's acting is because he does like 23 people in one or something. So it's pretty crazy, but I thought it was pretty good because I thought that was just... when I watched Split, it was
was it before you knew?
Yeah, I didn't know anything. I made sure I didn't want... Because I heard it was a twist ending.
Yeah.
I didn't... Because it's
Shyamalan doing a twist ending? What?
Get the fuck out of town. So, I thought it was going to be something weird. I thought it was going to probably ruin the movie. But it was like kind of like a horror movie almost. A guy has girls...
That's what it seemed like.
...locked up. So I was like, oh, what the fuck's going on? And then they showed some comic shop things, I think. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. But it's Shyamalan. And then they fucking showed Bruce Willis in it, and I just shit my pants. And motherfucking Shyamalan making Bruce Willis make people shit their pants.
Yeah. But everything I heard about Split was good. I just never got a chance to watching it. And that's what I want to watch it before I go and see Glass, which I've been hearing people being like, meh about, but then
I heard everybody that I talked to said it was really good, except the twist ending sucked or didn't make sense. No. That might be disappointing.
But then I also heard that, he went out and said, this is the end. There's not going to be any other movies tied in. There's not going to be another trilogies of movies after this, which we didn't think we were going to get any after Unbreakable. So, who knows, if the money's right and stuff like that. But
I was excited, though, because Unbreakable, I always was like, I wish there was a fucking sequel to this.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out.
It was like a great superhero movie that never got to the superhero part. It was the origin, and then right when the superhero part stopped, it ended, and they never had a sequel.
Yeah.
But then again, Split's not about superheroes at all, so it's just about a crazy fucking dude. So I guess maybe Glass has the superheroes, I'm hoping. It's like, I want to see some superhero shit.
So yeah, but it seems like it'll be real good.
Oh, what else is coming out here? We got.
Well, should we talk about the movie that we recently saw last weekend?
We could, and I believe it. I don't know what your personal take on, because we talked a little after the movie, obviously, but we didn't go into it. We saw Dragon Ball. Is it Super Broly?
I think it's Dragon Ball Super Broly. Yeah.
Okay.
It should be Super Broly because that motherfucker was crazy as shit.
Was he crazier than in the original, though? The original Broly
he was actually, like, crazy. It seemed like
he was savage. Crazy isn't the word. He was feral.
Yes, feral would be a good word.
Yeah, because in this movie, I'm not going to give too much away here, but in the original canon, I believe it's kind of similar. Broly and his dad get sent to some planet or something, but they're living in like a fucking castle or something, and he's real snobby and fucking, like Broly, he's real snobby, kind of prince-like, and he's just mad because Goku, when they were babies, he was crying a lot. It was really kind of lame.
Yeah.
But this new Broly, their story is similar in the fact that they got shipped, Vegeta's dad ships Broly to this fucking barren wasteland planet because Broly's too powerful as a baby. Yes. And then Broly's dad flies out to save him, and then they get stuck, and that's where he grows up. So he's pretty much just, other than his dad at least teaching him English and kind of how to talk to people, Broly is just a fucking caveman.
Yeah, he has like almost like you'd almost think that he's like mute almost.
He has manners that his dad taught him, but he never spoke to another human or alien or anything before other than his dad. So he didn't know how to interact with people. So it was very much like a feral child. It was very well done the way they did that. And he would eat real gross and stuff.
Yeah. It was pretty good. And I like the as if Goku, like, origin wasn't close enough to Superman already. With this new continuity change, they definitely made it like...
He might as well have been on Krypton.
He might as well have been there.
I think the Frieza's going to destroy our home planet. We better ship this baby off right now. Because in the... Mom and Dad die.
Because in the original movies that are canon now, I guess, or weren't ever canon, whatever... He just happened to be being shipped out as the planet.
They shipped the kids out to conquer planets, right? I think that was kind of what they did. But this one, Goku was, he didn't really show too many... Well, I think he showed some signs of having, like, a higher power.
But he was, like, small for his age.
Yeah, he wasn't, like, Raditz, his brother, so they, and that's what it was. His dad thought he had, or at least his mom thought he had potential, but he was kind of like a weak child. Yeah. So they shipped him off, and because the planet was about to get destroyed, then he obviously goes to Earth, becomes a little...
I mean, and he even, like, Bardock even uses the line of, like, hey, we're sending him to this planet Earth. They have low-level things. He should be fine there.
They won't go there.
Yeah, and then, like, in the Superman movie, Kyle's like, you know, we'll send him to Earth. He'll be like a god there. It was so, like, they really kind of played into that. I don't know if that was on purpose or, and I mean, there's not really too much different that they could have really done, you know, to go against that.
Yeah, they had to give him a reason to ship him off, so that was as good as any, I suppose. I thought the CGI in the movie at parts was a little... it wasn't wonky, it was well done, but it was kind of like a video game.
Yeah.
But overall, I still like the art a lot.
Oh, yeah, the actual...
They actually did art. It wasn't fucking all CGI. It was actual, like, you know, when they showed people's faces, it was drawings.
Like, I heard a lot of people compare, like, this is the most we've got, like, the Dragon Ball anime to look like the manga in a very long time.
And they had their big fight in Antarctica. And they blow it up so bad it becomes...
Well, no. It's the Iceland. They didn't say it was Antarctica.
It might as well have been Antarctica.
It was Antarctica, but...
And then they blew it up enough that it became a fucking volcano world. That was pretty cool. Overall, though, I thought the movie was well done. It was more satisfying than like the original canon. Or, well, I guess it was a canon, the original movies. And they left it off so... there could be more, and it would be reasonable. Unlike how Super Brawly came back, or Bio Brawly. That was fucking terrible.
Do we have to talk about Bio Broly?
We do not. But this movie actually left it off where maybe Broly will become a character in the next series they do, and he might not even be a bad guy.
Like, could you imagine if we had him for the whole Tournament of Power?
Oh, that'd be ridiculous, because pretty much he was undefeatable. He just kept getting... He was almost like the Hulk.
Yeah.
He just kept getting madder and madder. Greener and greener.
That's how I heard that people referred to him. He's the Dragon Ball version of the Hulk.
That's a very... Yeah, he even did... Holy shit, do you think they ripped off the Hulk? Because he did the moveset, too.
And then
he did the double fist pound. He did the fucking Loki smash him to the sides.
Yeah.
He did a lot of the Hulk's fighting style. Again, I mean, it was to show that he was savage. But then as the fight progressed, he got madder and madder, and he got way bigger. Like, he ended up being a fucking giant by the end of that fight. I'm wondering if they ripped off the Hulk for that.
Maybe,
That's fine. I mean, he was even Green Aura, which he had in the original movie, too. Shoot green balls out of his mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, that's always funny whenever, like, you see a character in Dragon Ball that shoots an energy blast out of their mouth. Because, like, random people will be, like, Broly can do it. I think Piccolo can do it. Nappa did it one time. Like,
all the Saiyans should be able to do it, but maybe it's just not effective. Maybe it hurts.
There are some kind of, like, plot holy things in it. Like, and you're going to get that with any Dragon Ball. Like, whenever I'm not gonna tell you why the dragon was summoned, because it's kind of dumb, but it's really like dumb. But it's like the linchpin for the whole movie. But it almost kind of makes it great. But anyways, whenever the dragon does get summoned, there's only one wish that's made, and then he goes. I thought they were up at least to 2 or 3 wishes, but I thought it was 2. I thought whenever Dende took over, because even in the Super episodes, because remember the last time they did the dragon, they used it to make Pam feel better because she was really sick. Yeah. And then they used it for something else when they were supposed to use it to resurrect King Kai and everybody.
Here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to give a spoiler for this movie. It's not a major spoiler. So if you plan on seeing the movie and haven't, just tune out now. The wish was for Frieza to be 5 centimeters taller. That was his wish. It was really fucking stupid, but that's why he went to Earth to get the Dragon Balls. And now, I brought that up because I want to ask you this question. What is a worse wish? Frieza wanting to be 5 inches or 5 centimeters taller. Not even inches, centimeters taller. So I don't know what that equates to. Or when, who's the pig?
Oolong?
Oolong wished for panties.
I think the Frieza, because who couldn't use a nice pair of panties?
He got them on his face. He was under duress, though, when he made that wish.
I think it was just to wish for something so that the other people couldn't use it.
Yeah, so he just wished for panties, and they fell on his face, and it was funny. But this is where I'm going to go full circle. Because we were talking about stupid reasons. Yeah. So this whole Broly thing happened because fucking Frieza had a wish to be 5 centimeters taller. Well, in Dragon Ball GT, which is not canon anymore, which is good, but Dragon Ball GT, the main villain, I think the final boss of the whole series. I never made it that far. The final boss of the whole series fucking came about because all the wishes they made, they would wish for stuff, and it had some kind of negative energy too. So every time they made a wish, this negative energy would go somewhere. And finally, they had enough of it where it created these demon things or dragons or something they had to fight. It was really stupid. But one of them was from Oolong's panty wish. So you had a panty dragon or panty monster thing. And it was so stupid. They actually made a fucking boss that was because of a fucking panty wish.
Well, didn't you say that ended with a dance-off or something?
No, but there was a dance-off in the asteroid at some point that was terrible. And somehow there was worms living in the asteroid because...
Space worms?
Yeah, but there's no atmosphere on the asteroid. It was terrible.
The one thing, though, that I thought would have been better, and they're not going to do it because Dragon Ball is Goku's story, but they build up, this rivalry between Broly and Vegeta, since birth, and they do fight in the beginning, but then Goku takes over, and then they have to come together.
I was curious about that because in the original movie, it was Broly and Goku. Yeah. I don't even know if Vegeta had a partner other than trying to fight him.
Yeah.
This, when they switched it, it was Vegeta and Broly.
Which made more sense, I mean.
Yeah, that's why Broly went to Earth, is because he wanted to kill Vegeta. So what I'm wondering, well, his dad wanted to kill Vegeta. I don't think Broly really gave a shit normally until they, well, I'm not going to give it away. But those two were fighting and stuff. And then, like you said, Goku gets involved. So maybe they're just kind of go back to the original where, like, it's him and Goku. But they do that all the time. Yeah. Because Goku's the main guy, and they just don't want to... They'll give Vegeta his shine now, at least, because the fans like it, but he never fucking comes out on top. No. Like, if he won the Tournament Power, I would have been super happy.
Well, in a way, he almost did, because he gave him that little bit of energy that somehow that was his last bit of energy, but it was able to make Goku go Ultra Instinct, like. Isn't that why? I think I remember that correctly. That kind of gave him that little...
Yeah, because right before he fell off the stage. Yeah. Which, that was pretty good, I guess. They did a good job in that tournament of giving people their shine. Like, they gave Roshi a real good send-off there. And they even got Vegeta's respect, and then Lord Beerus called him Master. Yeah. And that got me a little touch. Yeah. A little touch in the heart there, because he, it's just nice to see, like, these lesser characters get their shine. They didn't give Tien anything, though. He was useless. Krillin wasn't very good.
Yeah, yeah. At least Krillin wasn't the first person to get knocked out in the whole tournament. That's what I was worried was going to happen.
Was that 2019 Yamcha, a.k.a. Tien? Because I think that's what happened. Tien might as well not even been there. He didn't do anything. Krillin didn't do much. And then Piccolo, at least they gave him some good moments.
Yeah. And then I like it in the Broly movie, Piccolo got a couple minutes of screen time, which is I'm always happy about.
They brought him in. I wish they would just find a way to make him like higher, like make him equal to Vegeta and
Goku. Well, there for a while he was a super Namek, but then the power scale just gets so crazy, and it's hard for them to keep up. And like
I don't think they have a power scale anymore.
And like Piccolo's like babysitting Pam half the time, so it's not like he's training.
Well, anyway, we've been doing this for enough time. Should probably end it.
Yeah, it seems like a good note to end on.
Had a few drinks. Talk shit on Bill Maher. That's not too bad of an evening.
Talked a couple movies.
Yeah, I talked about a couple movies. We'll need to do a bullshit episode again.
Those are fun. Those are nice.
For those listening to this, we had in the past, we did a few bullshit episodes. We wanted to get into do some drunk cast episodes, which are bullshit episodes where we're just hammered drunk. Yeah. But, for instance, the bullshit episodes, we... lost them when I got a new computer. We were transferring files. A bunch of dumb shit happened. But from now on, we're going to go back to the routine. Well, like a weekly routine, I guess.
Do as much as schedule will allow.
Yeah, and we're going to go with the plan we had before of trying to get out an episode every week. And we're going to do new episodes from now on. I have a couple old episodes I'm sitting on. I don't know if I'm going to release them or not. I might just release them on an off day. Yeah. And then we'll be all caught up. And then from now on, we'll be hitting your eardrums with wonderful talk of sexual delights
and other things.
Fuck fiction and talking bad about Bill Maher.
Maybe we should read like some fuck fiction on air.
Yes. You know what I'm a little upset about? We had a bunch of episodes where we talked about Bill Fagerback for some reason.
Oh yeah,
and I don't know if I don't know which ones those were on, and they might be lost to time.
Oh, that's a shame.
So we're gonna have to bring that back.
That's a shame. Those were good.
They were all good.
You Bill Fagerbag.
I was on a Bill Fagerback kick there for a while.
A long time.
Yeah. We had too long of a hiatus. But anyway, if you wonderful people who are listening want to see what else we're up to, you can check us out at drunkenpenwriting.com. You can check us out at drunkpenwriting on Twitter. Just drunk pen writing, not drunken, because Twitter sucks and doesn't have a long enough character list. And Facebook, we are also Drunken Pen Writing. We have Podbean now, which you might be listening to this on, I'm not sure, which is Drunken Pen Writing, and a YouTube, which you could also listen to this on, and I'm sure you can guess the name. So, you folks have a wonderful morning, evening, good night.
Whatever you're listening to.
Lunch, dinner, breakfast. If you're watching Bill Maher.
Hopefully, what I'm hoping is that you're doing what I'm doing whenever I'm listening to most of my podcasts, and that's fucking off at work.
I was going to say masturbating, but fucking off at work's a little better, I guess.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could do both.
That's probably bad for you in your position.
Well, yeah, but I don't know what
around food. Definitely don't do that.
Well, but other people might be, have a.
Here's a list of places if you work at, you should just definitely never masturbate. If you work in the food industry,
okay.
If you work in a nursing home,
yeah.
If you work in a nursery,
yeah.
That's definitely the top 3. If you work in a school,
yes,
don't do that. If you work in general, you probably just shouldn't do it at all.
But if you're self-employed, you can go. Feel free to do whatever you like. If
you are a full-time writer, you can fap while creating your masterpiece.
I think that's how a lot of fuckfic is created.
I just found my $1 million idea.
Because don't you remember the episodes of South Park whenever Mr. Garrison was writing romance novels?
Yeah, and he had Mr. Penis, and he just kept getting real excited.
And he was typing with one hand and having Mr. Hat go at him with the other hand.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Hat.
Oh, Mr. Hat. Stop it. All right. Well, that got disgusting real quick. Okay, folks. We'll see you later.
Bye.